Okay, I'm going to move closer so my internet's going in and out. Hey, it's me, Jerry Cates. How you doing? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. So, I always hop on and then I don't really tell you what I'm up to or, what I do. Who am I? Who's this girl that comes on once a week and talks, right? So, first I want to welcome you to the group, the Secrets to Becoming an Empowered Woman group. I really appreciate that you're here. And I really appreciate that you keep coming back and listening to my talks. I'm getting feedback, and it's really powerful. It lets me know I'm on the right path, that I am making a difference. So thank you for that. So, what do I do? Really what it boils down to is I help women who feel overwhelmed or like there's something more. I help them get clarity and figure out what their next step is, right? And then support them in making those steps with that accountability. So, we do powerful work together. Anyway, I'll give you an opportunity to get on a call at the end and we can have a conversation about what matters in your life. Okay. So today I'm talking about overcoming guilt, how to say no to feeling bad or without feeling bad, how to say no without feeling bad. When somebody asks you something and maybe you're the kind of person that has been a people pleaser and always said yes, always said yes, always said yes. And that's a really hard place to break out of, right? When you start to take care of yourself, think, okay, I'm going to take care of myself. Here's my thing, and this is from Catherine Woodward Thomas. Take care of yourself well enough so that you feed others from your overflow. Take that on for a moment. Would that help you take better care of yourself so that you can feed others from your overflow? So, have you ever said yes to something and you didn't want to do it, or you did it, you said yes just to avoid feeling guilty? And then when you say yes, sometimes you feel guilty too. So it kind of feels like a no-win situation. So a personal story. I I think I was 18 and I'd moved to Los Angeles. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area with my family, and I moved to Los Angeles when just the month I turned 18. And I had been, I guess it was about a year later or so, I had gotten myself a sewing machine and I made some garments. I made 3 garments on that sewing machine. It was a treadle. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I had a treadle sewing machine. This is back in 1976. So I made 3 garments. Anyway, I made a pair of pants, and I worked in a department store. And one of the ladies at the department store that was an employee, we were all in the bathroom, me, a friend of mine who was an employee, and this other lady. And the other lady asked me, she was asking me about my pants, and oh, they were so cute. And I want you to make me a pair. And I said, yes, just happily as ever. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Well, when the lady left, my friend Chris, she said, why do you do that? You always say yes, and you couldn't possibly meet all the needs of all the yeses, something like that. She was right. I did say yes all the time. And if I didn't say yes, I would feel guilty, right? And then I put myself in an impossible situation where that added stress to my life. So if this is you, if you have put yourself in impossible situations by saying yes too much, or maybe saying yes and you can't possibly do it, and then people get the idea that you don't follow through because you say yes to things, but you don't follow through. So now the big picture is you don't follow through. See how much trouble we can get into by saying yes when when we'd rather not? So the purpose of this talk is to help women break free from guilt-driven decisions and reclaim their time and energy with confidence. Reclaim that time and energy. And this matters because boundaries are not about rejection. They are about self-care and honoring your values. I'm going to say that again. Boundaries are not about rejection. They are about self-care and honoring your value. Why do we feel guilty saying no? Let's look at this a little bit. Well, culturally, it's there's cultural and social conditionings. Hey, Rona, we're talking about boundaries with good parts coming. Let's see, cultural and social issues. This is why we feel guilty when we're saying no. Women are often taught to equate their worth with how much they give to others. So, right? So if I'm always saying yes, that's me measuring my worth, right? And then it's still an impossible situation because I can't possibly meet all those needs. And then there's a fear of disappointing others or being perceived as selfish. How many times have you heard that in your life? If you're doing self-care or putting yourself first, oh, you're selfish. And that's not it at all. It's really valuing yourself. But we get afraid that people will see us as selfish, so we say yes all the time. If this is resonating, whether you're live or replay, put a yes in the chat. So there's this internal conflict that goes on, the tension between personal priorities and external expectations. And some of those expectations I set up myself, right? They asked me, I said yes, I said yes, I said yes. So saying yes to avoid discomfort, that's the another internal conflict. Saying yes to avoid discomfort, but at the cost of your well-being. You give some of yourself up over that. Here's a key insight. When we say yes out of pressure, we are borrowing against our own well being and eroding our true capacity to show up authentically. Yeah, yeah. So let's reframe your mindset around boundaries. Let's play with it a little bit. So here's a mind shift. Your time is your most valuable resource, and honoring it is an act of self respect, not selfishness. I'm going to say it again. Your time is your most valuable resource, and honoring it is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. Here's a power statement. It is safe for me to prioritize my time. You notice I called it a power statement and not an affirmation? Power statement's deeper. And a power statement addresses the topic or the issue at hand, right? um, it takes that negative, I'm always saying yes, to the positive for yourself. It's safe for me to prioritize my time. Kind of puts you in the driver's seat there. Here's another one. I honor my time as a reflection of my worth. Ooh, that's a good one. I honor my time as a reflection of my worth. Because if I'm saying yes all the time, I'm not really valuing myself. If I'm saying yes and I can't possibly do it, or I feel stressed because I've got all these obligations, I'm not honoring myself. I'm not valuing myself. Here's another one. Protecting my time allows me to show up fully and authentically. Yeah. You don't have all the issues that we created, right? Of I got to take care of this, I got to take care of that. Oh, I told him I'd do that. So I'm going to give you a couple ways to work through it. And the benefits of setting boundaries, it reduces burnout and resentment. How many times have you been resentful because you said yes when you didn't want to? I've done that. So it causes burnout, right? And resentment. So setting those boundaries reduces burnout and resentment. And another benefit is creates a deeper, more meaningful, it creates more or deeper, more meaningful connections. When you're communicating with someone and you're honest and authentic and you're setting your boundaries, it's really enhancing your relationship. It really is. Boundaries without guilt. Now let's talk about boundaries without guilt. When someone asks for too much of your time, here's how to respond. Now I have a couple of them. I'm going to give you the short one first. You can practice this. So if somebody asks you, first let me say that if you've been saying yes all the time and you're there for them all the time, they might get a little upset with you when you change the game, when you change the rules, right? They didn't get the memo. Oh, I'm changing the rules. I'm setting healthy boundaries and I'm saying no more often. Well, they don't know all that. And they come into it and you're telling them no, and they might get upset. So just be ready for that and just keep yourself calm. Just be the model of the person you want to be, right? Calm, moving through it. So here's what you say. You can here's one way, and then we'll cover another one. So somebody asks you to do something or asks you for something, and if you can't say no in that moment, I have an out for you. You'll say, let me get back to you on that, and then go in the mirror and practice saying no, and then you get back to them on that and tell them, I've thought about it and it doesn't work for me, but thank you anyway. Something like that. Don't tell them why, because if I say, um, no, because I have this and that and that and this, and then that gives them ammunition. It's like, oh, that's more important than me, or because they're already going to be a little upset if you've been saying yes all the time, right? So you just have to say, no, that doesn't work for me, and move on. But I've got another one, and this is from Claire Zammit from my Feminine Power training. And this is a training that I offer. Okay, so when someone asks for too much of your time, here's how to respond. Acknowledge and appreciate. I love that you thought of me for this. I care about your success with this project. I actually like Claire's way better. Kind of easing it like it acknowledges you, right? And everybody wants to feel acknowledged and appreciated. So acknowledge it and appreciate. I love that you thought of me for this. I care about your success with this project. And the next one is set your boundary clearly. Right now, my schedule is full and I need to honor my commitments. Isn't that beautiful? I won't be able to take this on right now. So I'll say it again. Right now, my schedule is full and I need to honor my commitments. I won't be able to take this on right now. And then after or offer an alternative. Maybe you can help them problem solve. Have you considered asking so and so? I can help you brainstorm a different approach. So I'm offering to help. I'm not saying yes to whatever they want, but I'm offering to help them formulate a different approach, right? And then thank them. I appreciate your understanding. Let's revisit this in the future. Now I'm going to say them all together so you kind of feel the flow of it. So if somebody asks me for something and I respond, I love that you thought of me for this. I care about your success with this project. Right now, my schedule is full and I need to honor my commitments. I won't be able to take this on right now. Have you considered asking John? Um, I can help you brainstorm a different approach. I appreciate your understanding. Let's revisit this in the future. It's not like how you've been doing it, right? Because if you're like me, like I was in the past, you're saying yes all the time. So it's something new. And I mean, if this is too much, go back and write it down. Go back and learn it and practice it. Practice it in the mirror. That's what I would do when I needed to practice saying no to someone. I'd go in that mirror and say, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for that right now. If I had to say something short, right? But this is beautiful. I love that you thought of me for this. We're acknowledging and appreciating. I care about your success with this project, setting your boundary clearly. Right now, my schedule is full and I need to honor my commitments. I won't be able to take this on right now. That is setting a clear boundary. And then offer alternatives. Have you considered asking someone else? I can help you brainstorm a different approach, and then thanking them. I appreciate your understanding. Let's revisit this in the future. So they really won't know what hit them. And what hit them is a new way of showing up. And people are going to learn by you shifting and changing and showing up differently, showing up more empowered. Other people are going to learn from that. When you change, the people around you change because what they're doing no longer works. Now, at first, it might be a little rough because they're not used to that change and they might protest it. But think of it like this. When a new structure or system is being built, we often have to tear down the old structure. And that's what seems like chaos when somebody gets upset or whatever. When they do get upset, and they are going to get upset, I'm not going to lie to you, people are going to get upset. Just take a deep breath and keep yourself calm. Do everything you can to keep your voice calm, and it will shift everything. All right. So I want you to think about a real life scenario where you struggle to say no. And if you feel courageous enough, I'd love you to put it in the chat. Where do you struggle to say no to your kids? Um, when an employee or coworker asks you to do something and they're in the habit of putting things on you, right? Where do you struggle to say no? Because identifying where that is, then you can go address it. You can say, okay, the next time Johnny asks me for whatever it is, or for more money, this is how I'm going to prepare myself. I don't know if I love that you thought of me for this works with money. I think with money, I'm going to say, that doesn't work for me. I appreciate that you're asking me. There it is. I appreciate that you're asking me, but then you're setting that boundary. And you have to practice it. You have to practice it. Years ago, oh gosh, when we had the Loma Prieta earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area, so that was in '87, and I worked for this couple, and in the beginning, I could see that she was always yelling at the staff. I worked at a printing company, and I worked in the front office. But she was always yelling. She wasn't yelling at me, but it didn't make me. It made me feel really uncomfortable. And then the yelling started on me, and I would. One day after a horrible day where the customers were screaming at me because they weren't getting their letterhead and things, so I had to do something different. So I get to work and I sit in the car and I do a meditation, Shati Gwain, a meditation like 20 minutes to get myself grounded because I got to go into this really uncomfortable place. Have you ever worked a job where you just really don't want to go in there? And I had developed this dislike for being there. But I came in and I went into the bathroom and I did some mirror work. And I mentioned mirror work the other day, where you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I like myself unconditionally, or I love myself unconditionally. Or, as Hay always would recommend, you just tell yourself, I love you. Jerry, I love you. I love you. Right? So connecting with yourself. So I'm in this bathroom. I need to set boundaries with this couple. So I'm in this bathroom and I'm talking to myself in the mirror and I'm talking. And when I felt grounded and complete, I went out to talk to Bill, the husband, and asked him if I could have a meeting with him and Norma. And it kind of put him back on his heels. He did not expect me to ask for a meeting. And so we had it in my office, and I told them I really like you guys and I want to like working here. But lately it's been difficult, and here's why. So there I was laying it out, setting a boundary. And then we worked it out that I would handle retail and they would handle wholesale. So in the next week or so, somebody called from a wholesale account, and Norma knew what was late or what people were waiting on. She knew what was late. And this law firm had called and wanted their letterhead. And she told me to tell them that it'll ship on Monday. And I very sweetly and softly said, well, I don't want to say the name of the company. I said the name of the company. And I said, it's a wholesale account, and you and Bill are handling wholesale. And I turned around and walked away. Now, I got paid to leave that job. Within a couple of weeks, I was looking for another job. And I guess they got wind of it. And the owner, the husband, asked me about it. And he wanted to know how it was going because he had someone else they wanted to move in. but he ended up paying me 3 weeks' salary and medical for that month, or that next month, because we were nearing a month, um, um, if I left the job that day. See, so setting boundaries, I can just imagine the pillow talk because between those two, get rid of her. Get rid of her. Slugging him in bed. Get rid of her. Get rid of her. Because I wasn't going to get caught up in the game she had going on. I set healthy boundaries. I was saying no, thank you. I was not going to do it. So, but I did things, I pulled things out of my tool belt to help me get in a good space so I could have the courage to do it. Talking in the mirror. Here's another one. If you're familiar with the high five habit by Mel Robbins. So and she's like, you high five yourself in the mirror. And when you high five someone, just high five yourself right now. Doesn't that feel good? It's like, yeah, it gets you excited. It gets momentum going. And so, with that, I love you in the mirror in the morning and in the evening, you could be high fiving yourself. And what that does is it generates positive energy. And here's the thing. So in her book, Mel Robbins's book, The High Five Habit, they were talking about college teams, sports teams, and I don't remember what basketball or what, but the teams that had the accolades, the high fives, they supported each other versus the ones that didn't do any of that stuff. The ones that had the accolades always went to the finals, the others didn't. See how powerful that is? Just really powerful. So let's give some action steps for setting boundaries. Set a micro boundary today. Decline a last minute request politely. When somebody asks you something at the last minute and if you always say yes and it really doesn't resonate with you, that's just a micro boundary, just a little bit of practice. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take you practicing setting those boundaries. But it feels so good on the other side. Once their tantrum's over or their unhappiness is over, they start to get the idea that you're setting a boundary. And it works in so many ways. Had a client whose granddaughter would come over and she was a teenager and she would scream and throw fits. And grandma set a boundary with her and told her, you can leave. I'm not having that at my house. And it shifted her. She went to the room and sulked for a while, but she never did it again. Now she's 19, and well adjusted and doing great. But it's those boundaries. Set them early on. Set them as they're happening. I had a friend that was I I'm gonna I'm gonna own it. I was gonna say she was always hijacking the conversation, but now I'm gonna own it. We'd get on the phone, and I noticed that she would hijack the conversation. But here's the owning it part. I let her get away with it. I would just get off the phone and feel really empty, right? And not seen or heard, right? Because she spent the whole time talking about whatever it was she had going on. And so it was my birthday. And I was sharing about my birthday, and she hijacked the conversation. And I spoke up for the first time. I mean, I spoke up a few times, but I wasn't really firm. I spoke up and identified the behavior. I was very nice about it, but I said, the behavior that bothers me is that I'm sharing with you about my birthday, and you take over the conversation. Notice I didn't use hijack. You take over the conversation, and then I'm feeling empty. I'm not feeling heard. She lit into me. And this is why you want to handle those boundaries early on as they're happening. Feel good about yourself enough to have your value in your work so that you're practicing setting healthy boundaries. Because she ripped me a new one and it was uncalled for. And she said things that I can't even believe she said. But I own it because I set it up, because I allowed it to go on at a minor level or a lesser level for so long that she had no boundary with me. she had no boundaries. So I'm telling you, I'm going to be doing healthy boundaries for the next 5 weeks, or 4 more weeks. On Tuesday, we're going to talk about different ways of setting boundaries. So do come back. So back to what I was saying, setting that micro boundary, and then reflect, how does saying no feel in my body? What resistance comes up? Because you're going to feel it. So noticing it, how does saying no feel in my body? You'll practice it in the mirror. Say no, no. Even saying it in the mirror, sometimes you might feel a little resistance because we're so used to saying yes. But practicing it, and then asking yourself, how does saying no feel in my body, and what resistance comes up? And then commitment. Here's a commitment. Today I affirm that my time is valuable and I have the right to protect it. Today I affirm that my time is valuable and I have the right to protect it. So what did we talk about? Why we feel guilty, and it was, it was cultural and social conditioning and internal conflicts. And then reframing your mindset, shift your mindset to see yourself as the most valuable resource and honoring it as an act of self-respect and not selfishness. And then you can use some power statements. I am safe to prioritize my time, or it is safe to prioritize my time. I honor my time as a reflection of my worth. And then the benefits of setting boundaries, it reduces burnout and resentment, and it creates deeper, more meaningful connections. And then the third part, we talked about boundaries without guilt, and I gave you a script you can practice with and another script, but I'm just encouraging you to, when somebody asks you to do something, just take a breath and really ask yourself, is this something I want to do? Right? I mean, because otherwise you say yes and do it, and then we're resentful, right? That's not a good feeling. So I'm about helping you feel good all the time, and take actions that help you feel good. Okay, and then we talked a little bit about setting a micro boundary. So you got to start somewhere. So think about in your life an area where you really would benefit by setting some boundaries. And then affirm, today I affirm that my time is valuable and I have the right to protect it. All right. So key takeaways. Saying no is an act of self-love and empowerment. Boundaries strengthen relationships, not damage them. And if you want to go deeper, if you're having struggles or challenges with boundaries, let's get on a clarity call and identify what the problem is, what the struggle is, and um, craft some ways, some new perspectives and new ways of looking at things so you can start to set those healthy boundaries, right? If you're like me, I grew up and my caregiver, she was really unpredictable. My mom was real unpredictable. Um, I lived in a lot of fear, but I was always people pleasing, always people pleasing. And that's where I didn't learn to set boundaries. That's where what continued. I didn't have boundaries. So in those situations, and there's other situations too, when we're not being respected, when we don't have boundaries. So if you need some help identifying your boundaries, put boundaries in the chat and we'll get on a call and get some clarity on it, okay? Hey, Rona, thanks for staying. All right, would love to know your feedback. I'm on this phone. I'm getting ready to go back on the computer doing lives. It is just a process and I need to learn to do it. I can't see comments from here. That's the bummer. Anyway, I'll be back next Tuesday. Watch for some articles in the group about boundaries. We're going to do boundaries for 4 more weeks. And hey, go practice this, acknowledging and set your boundary, offer an alternative, and thank them. I know that feels counterintuitive, right? I'm going to thank them for, asking me for something, but it's really, I appreciate your understanding. I'm thanking you ahead of time for your understanding. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to let you go. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and I'll see you in the group. Bye bye. I'm Jerry Cates out.